Hello everybody. Today we are looking at this Northern Electric Model 500 telephone from 1964 that is in need of repair. This was recently brought to the TV station. We've been using it as a decoration in the studio. If I remember right, it came out of the same shed as the 12-inch Panasonic color TV that we recently looked at. And I tested this phone and it works, except it doesn't ring. It dials out, transmitter and receiver work fine. There's no problems anywhere except that it simply doesn't ring. You can't hear it even trying to ring when the line rings. So today we're going to open this up and we're going to see if we can fix the ringer and make this thing ring again. So this was made by Northern Electric, which is the company that became Northern Telecom. The name change occurred in 1976. This phone was made in 1964. So if you don't know Northern Electric, later Northern Telecom, they were the manufacturing arm of Bell Canada. So Northern Electric was to Bell Canada what Western Electric was to the American Bell system. And of course, Northern Electric and Western Electric, they shared a lot of designs between each other. So this is largely the same as a Western Electric 500 telephone. You can see it's got a number plate on it, 472. That's our Fredericton exchange code. So this phone came from Fredericton. And that could be the original dial card, number plate, I think it's called. This could be the original one because Fredericton did have 7-digit dialing by then. In fact, even a lot of the small towns here were 7 digits by 1961. However, the small town that I live in, we had 4-digit local dialing until 1996. You had to dial 7 digits to dial outside of town, but to dial someone within town, you only had to dial the last 4 digits until 1996. That's kind of neat. So it could be the original number plate. We look at the handset here, Northern Electric. It's a G3 handset, made in Canada. Over here, Northern Electric, last patented date is 1960. I thought for a second it was 1980. I was like, what? Made in Canada. And yeah, we'll look at the bottom. Made in Canada. It's got, the only thing that resembles a date code on here is it says it's a Model 500, and right there it says 6-1. So I originally thought maybe 1961. But if we open up the receiver and transmitter, very nicely built, very heavy metal transmitter. Transmitter says made in Canada, patented 1953, and the stamped date code is 1964. And the transmitter. And these are all exchangeable. You can exchange these with Western Electric parts. Transmitter says made in Canada. And I believe that's the same date as what we saw on the receiver, 1964. Carbon microphone. It's got a very long line cord on it, and at the end of the line cord I attached this box that let me attach a modular cable to it, because this phone predates modular telephone cabling. The handset is permanently wired on both ends, and the line cord is also permanently attached. And At the end of the line cord was just bare wires that would be connected to a junction box that looks very much like this in your home. So I've attached it to this box, which has a modular jack on it, so I could test the phone, because we had no idea what the condition of the phone was. In fact, I'm surprised that it doesn't ring. I'm surprised it just doesn't work perfectly. So I've got this phone connected as an extension on the Northern Telecom Northstar Compact ICS, a key telephone system that Northern Telecom made some 40 years after they made this phone. I've got another Northstar extension hooked up here, so I can show you that it dials out fine. You can see that phone's ringing, and if I put it in hands-free, hello, 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 it works just fine. The transmitter works, and when I speak into this phone, the receiver works too. So everything's working fine on this phone, except for the ringing. If I try and call this phone, no ringy dingy. You can't hear anything. You can't hear the clapper trying to hit the bells or anything. And we tried fiddling with the volume dial on the bottom, and that doesn't do anything. It's like the ringer is electrically disconnected. Hopefully that's all it is, but we will find out. So let me put you on a tripod and we will open this thing up and see what we find inside. A few years ago, we looked at another Northern Telecom 500 phone, a much newer one. It was a beige one that I worked on for my friend Alistair in Saskatchewan. It had a wiring issue in the handset cabling, and it either didn't receive or it didn't transmit. I forget which, and we cut the handset cable short and resoldered it to the handset or to the base of the phone, whichever it was. But that was a much newer rotary dial phone. I think that one was from 1980. But yeah, that was quite an awful process. Really, you don't do that if you have handset cord problems. You really just find a replacement and replace the entire curly cord, because those super thin wires just terrible to solder. This phone, luckily, the handset cable's all good. There doesn't seem to be any issues there. So, I've disconnected it from the line, and I no longer remember how to open one of these, but I see two screws here, so I am going to assume that we just take those out. Alright, and there it is. Let me plug it back in. We will see what it does. I will hold the bells so that it doesn't ring super loud. And let's oh, I gotta hang up the. See, can I do? I gotta hang it up. I'll do this. No ringy dingy. Yeah, there's nothing going on there. Okay. So let me get you in here so I can give you a better tour of what's inside one of these, although you've already seen it before, but let's get a little refresher. So there's your two gongs, are they called, I think? Of course, when you turn your volume adjustment, it just brings one bell closer to the gong. So I think that's the, yeah, that's the quieter setting. So the gong is, or the bell is moved closer to the clapper, I believe is the right word, so that it doesn't accelerate as far before, or as quick as much before it hits the bell. And everything hooks up over here, so this could be where our problem lies. And so yeah, I've got to, I mean, when I look at the solenoid, that looks okay, I think. So a red wire, yeah, a red wire and a gray wire. And of course, this tells you, this should tell me what, where the ringer is, but I don't know what those letters mean. I'll have to look it up. But yeah. Yeah, let me look up how the solenoid is which of these terminals it's wired to. I think I found my issue. So I've been doing some research, and back in the day, telephones used to be wired slightly differently. Today, telephones are wired with just two wires, tip and ring, but back in the day, there was a third ground wire. And when telephone connections did away with this ground wire, the ringer had to be rewired to account for it. It had to be changed to what's called bridged ringing. And I don't think this ringer was rewired for bridged ringing. So there's four wires coming off this solenoid. And it's not really a solenoid, it's just a solenoid. Solenoid usually has a plunger in the middle. So I'm probably misusing that word too. But the coil has the four wires coming out of it. Two of them come across the two line connections, which are L2 and L1. And then there's also ground and I think over here A. So if this phone was rewired for modern connections, modern being the type of phone wiring that began taking place several decades ago, I don't know if it was the 70s or what, the ringer, the red and black wires of the ringer coil would be between the red and green wires of the telephone cord, tip and ring. But the black wire for the ringer, which is this one, it's connected to the yellow wire that goes to the line cord. So there's three wires in this line cord, red, green, and yellow was your ground back in the old days of telephone wiring. And it appears that that black wire is connected to the yellow line wire. So what I need to do is move this black wire coming off the ringer coil to the green line wire. So I'm going to move it from this terminal to this terminal. I'm going to try that and then see if this thing rings. Alright, I have made the wiring change, just moving that one wire. Let's see if this thing rings. Alright, it's a little late at night, so once again I'm gonna use my fingers to mute the gongs here. Let's dial this thing. That was it. That was it. That is perfect. So that was it. This phone was never rewired for bridged ringing, for the modern way of connecting telephone sets. And what that tells me is that this phone didn't have a very long service life. It was taken out of service not very far into its lifespan. It couldn't have been used past, what, the 1970s? So it never got rewired for bridged ringing. So at least if my research so far is correct, that seems to be the conclusion, is that this phone, either that or the telephone exchange that this was connected to continued being compatible with the old wiring setup, into the 80s, or, it's pretty reasonable that this phone could have been used into the 80s. By the 80s, once third-party telephones started becoming popular, then you could expect that this would have been replaced. Even by the end of the 70s, lots of people were changing these out for touch-tone phones, but yeah, this never got rewired for bridged ringing. That is, I have learned something new. I've learned that that's a thing. And now we've fixed this. So let's shut her down for the night. We'll come back tomorrow when I can make some more noise, and we will hear this thing ring in full, and we'll do some more testing with it before we wrap up. Cool. All right, it's the next day. Nope, that's a lie. It's actually like a week later. I got the phone back together. That's also a lie. I haven't screwed on the top cover yet, but it looks the part, and so let's give this thing a ring. I've got the ringer turned about halfway up. And there you go. And even just with the ringer turned halfway up, it's quite loud. Now that ring cadence is because this is currently connected as an extension on my Northern Telecom Northstar key telephone system. I can give it a normal ring. I'll plug it in the same line that I use the Leech CSD 5300 on. And we'll just give the Leech CSD 5300 a call. Use this one. 506-408-0067. So we should ring at least once before the Leech picks up. There you go. And there the Leech just picked up. So there, it works. And what I can do is turn the ringer volume. When you turn the ringer volume all the way down, it basically disables, it functionally disables one of the bells, and then it only rings with one bell. So if I do this now, that's not going to work. I forgot to plug it back in the extension. There, it's a little easier on the ears. And there you go. Cool, so it all works. Now, I deliberated whether or not to do this, but I think I will, just for the heck of it. Before we close out this video, I am going to grab my Novus plastic polish, which really I need to use up wherever I can anyway, because I've had it for like almost a decade. I'll grab my Novus plastic polish, and I'll just polish this cabinet up. I'll polish the handset up and make this thing look a little bit prettier. And here's afterwards. I didn't spend too much time or elbow grease on it, but it's a minor improvement, noticeably shinier than before, and much smoother to the touch than before. So yeah, I'm happy with that. An hour or hour and a half of work just while I idly watched YouTube videos. And with that, this thing is done. That is a look at a Northern Electric Model 500 telephone set from 1964. Dug out of a not entirely climate-controlled shed, partially open to the elements. It didn't ring, but that turned out just to be an internal configuration change that had to be done. And this phone appears to work just fine. I will bring it back to the TV station. I'm not sure what we'll do with it. Probably just stick it in a corner to be a decoration like it was before. But good to see this thing still works and is all cleaned up and looking a lot better now. Very, very nice. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.